is happening on the planet? The experts on climate change say the evidence is in.
We are measuring certain types of extreme events that we would expect to see more often in a warming world, and these are indeed increasing.
The decade that just ended had 9 out of the 10 warmest years since they started keeping record in 1880.
This is no longer something that's theory or conjecture or just something that comes out of computer models. We're observing the climate changing. It's happening. It's real. It's a scientific fact.
The great blizzard has begun its 2,000-mile march of misery. The storm is one for the ages. The storm hit first in Texas and Oklahoma, smashing the all-time record for snowfall in Oklahoma City. In Tulsa, the heaviest snowfall in history.
Both in Hartford, Connecticut and Albany, New York, they set records for snowfall in a single day.
Tonight, there is snow on the ground in 49 of the 50 United States.
Big news out of Texas tonight. Wildfires fed by dangerous dry conditions, and they're all over the state, from the Oklahoma border to the Houston area.
Unrelenting wildfires, the likes of which Texas has never seen, are hungrily consuming the state. Texas battles wildfires every year, but this spring the state is extremely dry.
And now to the series of monster storms sweeping across the country.
Virginia, Tennessee, and Maryland. Tens of thousands displaced. In Alabama, as many as 1 million people are without power. Houses have been taken right down to their foundations. It hit in Ringgold, Georgia without warning. Mississippi looks like a war zone. More than 30 dead here.
I've declared a state of emergency.
I'm Ton Trung in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The massive tornado, a mile wide, tore through here.
We have utter destruction. We have neighborhoods that have basically been removed from the map, and we've got thousands upon thousands of citizens who have lost all of their possessions.
I've never seen devastation like this.
Hail, heavy rain, and flooding also left their mark.
Major flooding is now pushing the banks of more than 50 rivers and streams.
In the month of April, a record 453 tornadoes have been confirmed. Didn't used to be like this. What's going on? What are we doing that's causing this? It seems newly virulent and violent, all of it across the country.
We have a warmer Earth. And the purpose of the jet stream is to help equalize all of that. Because it's warmer, it's going to have to work a lot harder.
I'm calling it as bad or worse damage as I've ever seen.
State of emergency. Hundreds more are told to evacuate as the Mississippi River rises.
Approaching an all-time high here.
It's the worst one we've ever had.
With 11 locations in 6 states recording new record crests.
Across Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, and Tennessee, authorities are now asking thousands of residents to evacuate.
The Army Corps of Engineers has intentionally breached the river, blowing up levees this week at 3 points along the Big Muddy. Farmers say it will cost them millions in losses.
The river crested in Helena, Arkansas today at 12 feet above flood stage. And in the days to come, the rain-swollen waters are expected to reach record heights.
Opening the floodgates will pour a torrent of water over the low-lying farms, homes, and businesses for 100 miles south to the Gulf of Mexico, but bypassing big cities.
And it would have inundated New Orleans in up to 25 feet of water.
It seems especially cruel with all this news of the flooding in the Midwest that this next story is about a drought, a bad one.
So brown and barren that ranchers like Roger Magoni are having to provide feed for their cattle at great expense because there's simply nothing to graze on.
We've never had an April like this, never. And May starting off the same way.
More than a quarter of the state is in what's called exceptional drought, the most severe category. And it's grown worse over the past 6 weeks. The red and dark red showing the hardest hit areas, not just in Texas, but throughout the region. But the Lone Star State is the epicenter. Fields parched, withering, and bone dry.
Over the weekend, 70 tornadoes in 70 states, but what happened here in Joplin was certainly the worst. Wrapped in rain, it was difficult to see, but filled the entire sky, leaving behind what looks like a war zone. Up to 200-mile-an-hour winds ripping a 4-mile path, destroying 75% of Joplin, Missouri in just 10 minutes. This morning, the aftermath. Homes completely demolished, businesses wiped out.
It's 360-degree apocalyptic destruction.
You can see that this entire neighborhood is completely flattened.
The number of dead now stands at 132, and 157 people are still unaccounted for. This is one of the most dangerous tornado seasons on records, but few expected the deadly twisters to reach Massachusetts. That's why what happened yesterday still has people in shock.
At least 2 tornadoes tore through more than a dozen towns in the central and western part of the state. Those who lost everything could not imagine seeing their life torn apart by a tornado until yesterday.
The massive Arizona wildfire we've been reporting on for days has officially now become the largest in the state's history.
Just take a look at this map tonight. That red zone, an area about 1,000 miles wide.
The fires have burned more than 1 million acres in just the last 72 hours in what was already a record wildfire season.
What we're seeing is prolonged droughts. We're seeing more fire, more weather extremes.
North of Houston, a 14,000-acre blaze is now among the largest East Texas has ever seen.
On Capitol Hill, the chief of the U.S. Forest Service blames climate change for this year's historic fires.
Texas is hardest hit as of today. 29 wildfires burning. 3 million acres have burned since January, and that's a state record. And Florida has now emerged as another front, where they've fought 400 separate fires. The latest disaster in what's already been such an awful season.
With water already surging into Minot, the Souris is expected to rise a full 8 feet higher than the last great flood here in 1969.
It's expected to break the all-time record there.
In parts of North Dakota, entire neighborhoods underwater.
You know, it's almost apocalyptic.
Massive snowmelt and heavy rains have the Souris running at record highs.
No one has ever seen this much water here.
Nearly 24 states now, all dealing with rising waters. And in one state in particular, the nuclear plant they're now watching. A flood wall has collapsed outside the Fort Calhoun nuclear plant near Omaha, Nebraska. The power station is now surrounded by flood waters. There has been a power failure there today. Temperatures and conditions so severe, fireworks in many cities canceled. Simply too dangerous with the landscape bone dry.
Dangerous temps of over 110 scorched the Southwest, a record 118 in Phoenix, battling the blaze at Los Alamos, which today became the biggest in state history.
And now those apocalyptic images out of Arizona.
A dust cloud so massive and powerful, it's usually only seen in the deserts of the Middle East. It swallowed up part of the city of Phoenix.
Big broil, the record heat, 90 million people sweltering.
Oklahoma City's 14th straight day above 100 degrees. Since the start of this month alone, record temperatures were either matched or broken nearly 670 different times. Adding insult to injury is the drought now gripping farm and ranch lands in the deep south and southwest. And parts of Texas are breaking drought records set in 1917. The federal government has declared the entire state a disaster area with $3 billion in agricultural losses. No rain, there's no hay to feed the cattle. The beef prices you pay are about to rise even higher.
And countless heat records are falling, and it's just halfway through the month.
This is Lake Travis in central Texas before the drought. And here it is now, the bathtub ring, an eerie reminder of what was.
We do have dry, hot summers here in Oklahoma, but we have never seen anything like this.
The deadly heat that's battering the country's midsection has so far set or broken 1,000 records this month alone.
Hurricane Irene is delivering on the water, a torrent of flash floods.
In Vermont, of all places, she was unexpectedly devastating. They haven't seen floods like this in over half a century. The water's tearing through homes and bringing down those old historical bridges.
At least 260 roads in Vermont now look something like this, washed out from the side or sliced in two.
In the Catskill Mountains of New York, flooding was truly out of control.
In the town of Windham, the fire chief there says the town center is, quote, wiped out, completely underwater after 10 inches of rain.
And then there's the Philadelphia, New Jersey area. Today, the Schuylkill River, which runs straight through Philly, crested at its highest level since 1869.
This is Paterson, New Jersey, as the Passaic River keeps on rising.
The Passaic River is going to crest at a record level. Irene did land some real punches. When it's all said and done, the total damages could be up to $45 billion. And beneath those numbers, the undeniable human impact.
The death toll so far this evening is 44.
5,000 heat records have been broken across the country. Every state in the U.S. set a heat record, all 50, and farmers all across the southern tier are suffering. Crops from corn to soybeans dying on the vine. And soon prices on vegetables and beef are expected to jump 10 to 20%.
Every farmer in the world will be affected by climate change in one way or another.
Texas had the hottest summer of any state ever on record. Tropical Storm Lee. There's new devastation this evening in the Northeast. Huge evacuations after a new storm system has dumped a lot more water.
Tonight, Pennsylvania is on its highest state of alert.
Creeks near Wilkes-Barre rushing at breakneck speed, running over this bridge, isolating houses, and causing one of hundreds of road closures in Pennsylvania. Their destination, the already swollen Susquehanna River. In Binghamton, New York, every bridge is closed. 10,000 people forced from their homes ahead of the relentless river. Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, inundated by Irene a week and a half ago, today punished by Lee.
Did you see the amazing sight in West Texas, like a scene out of an apocalypse, the giant dust cloud descending on the city of Lubbock? Halloween canceled, cities call off trick-or-treating across the snow-blasted east.
A record-setting snowstorm, a freak nor'easter in the heart of autumn, toppling trees, tearing down power lines. And tonight, 2 months before winter, the storm has left at least 8 people dead.
In the Berkshires of Massachusetts, Plainfield checking in with a staggering 30.8 inches.
Some incredible numbers, not even Halloween yet.
Halloween has been rescheduled for Friday, November 4th, 2011.
Monster storm roaring across Alaska. They are describing it as epic and having, quote, a magnitude rarely experienced. But once-in-a-lifetime weather has been hammering the U.S. all year.
They're used to storms in Alaska, but not like this. The epic storm slamming Alaska's western coast right now is twice the size of Texas. Winds reaching nearly 90 miles an hour, as powerful as a hurricane, tearing off roofs and blowing the snow sideways.
We have spent so much time here this year reporting on extreme weather events. There's more where all that came from.
Today's report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change confirms what many already suspect. Our weather will only get more extreme as greenhouse gases continue to be pumped into the air by burning fossil fuels such as oil and coal.
This is no longer something that's theory or conjecture or just something that comes out of computer models. We're observing the climate changing. It's happening. It's real. It's a scientific fact. If left unchecked, climate warming will continue. And so the things that we're having hints now, foretastes of now, will become stronger.